So you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. I want to thank Lily B for asking me to do this, but I want you to know that I can never say no to Lily. And after I saw Russell's PowerPoint last month, I'm truly intimidated. He was really fantastic. What a great speaker, and his story was so wonderful to hear. I also enjoyed meeting Lily C, who I think is such a powerhouse, and I believe both those two are worth their weight in jade. Now, I had some help from Yudon Wang. I want to thank her, and also Karen Suhu. I couldn't have done it without them. I want, when I do this PowerPoint, I'm having Yudon forward the slides. And so instead of saying like, next slide, please, that takes so much time, I'll probably just say next. And I don't want you to think I'm officious or something by doing that. I want to tell you also that my title, I ripped off. That was not my idea, but I got this from a book that I really love. And one year before, right at the time when I was finishing my docent training, my husband likes to fly fish, and we were in Montana. And I found this book in a little bookstore. It was a little vintage place, and I think it was like $1. And it was called Jade Stone of Heaven. And so that's what I'm using. The other thing I want to tell you is our daughter lives in San Francisco. And we used to sometimes go to Union Square when we would go up and visit. And there was a department store there that I love to go into on Post Street. And it was called Gump's Department Store. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but it's really an upscale store. I never hardly bought anything in there because everything was too expensive. But they were known for their Asian art collection, and they also had this unrivaled jade collection in there too. And I loved the catalogs. And a couple years ago, I was talking to Elaine Pierce, and I was mourning the fact that I had not heard from Gump's. My catalogs weren't coming in, and I wondered what was going on. And we hadn't been to Union Square or anything. And I learned that they had closed the store. And it was an old store. It was like 150 years old. And I thought, doggone. And I wanted to tell you this story because guess what? My book, Stone of Heaven, is by Richard Gump. And Richard Gump was in the third generation family, and he ran the store. And he apparently has this fantastic art collection, all in Asian art. And I don't know what happened. If anybody knows, maybe later you can tell me, but I really miss that. I miss my catalog. I love that catalog. Okay, why don't we do next slide? And I hate to read out loud like this, but I felt like this would honor the PowerPoint. So I'm going to read this if you don't mind. Jade is a possession to be cherished by anyone who can find it or buy it or steal it. Chinese women ask for jade ornaments for their hair, and old men keep in their closed palms a piece of cool jade, so smooth that it seems soft to the touch. Rich men buy jades instead of putting their money in banks, for jade grows more beautiful with age. When men die, their families put jade in the tombs with them to keep them from decay, and the orifices of their bodies are stopped with jade for purity. The poorest courtesan has her bit of jade, sorry, to hang in her ears or to use as a hairpin. And the most successful and popular actresses wear jade instead of diamonds because jade is the most sumptuous jewel against a woman's flesh. Next slide, thank you. Now, Pearl S. Buck, I don't know if you remember, she wrote The Good Earth. I read that, I think, in high school. And she was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in, I think it was in about 1952 for literature. She lived in China for 40 years. So here we are. I want to point out that this report is not going to be about the Simpsons, but it is about Jade. And a few seasons ago, the Simpsons went to China, and Homer completely immersed himself into everything Chinese. And when you look at this, I want you to see how he's sitting on a donut instead of a lotus flower. He has an orange robe on. Look at his eyes. He's in the Zen zone. In one hand, he has a pretzel, and in the other hand, he's clutching a bracelet of beads, and they are jade. What is better than to have the Simpsons with Jade on TV? Next slide. Now, starting this out, I want you to notice the two Chinese characters here. The one on the left is for king, and the one on the right is for Jade. They are very, very similar. When you look at the left one, you see 3 strokes, and they symbolize 3 realms. The bottom one is earth, the middle one is humankind, and the top one is heaven. The vertical stroke indicates that kings are mediators among these realms, but heaven is always standing above a king. Next slide. So this is the Chinese character for Jade, and it's a 5-stroke character, and it has a little extra little dot, and we're wondering what it is. Look over on the left. I want you to see that something that Chinese noblemen will use to wear them on their clothes, and they're pendants of jade stones. They're sort of pancake-shaped pieces of jade, and they are kind of suspended like a wind chime. And again, we'll start at the top. The top stroke represents heaven, and then the middle is earth and its people, and then the bottom one is going to represent the underworld where jade is first formed. And then you see that vertical brush stroke again, and it represents not only the string over there on the left that holds the 3 pieces of jade together, but it also connects the physical and the spiritual worlds. And that connects then to the emperor. And that dot there, the 5th stroke, that is the smallest one, that refers to jade itself in the pocket of the emperor. I read somewhere that the dot could be like a dragon tear, but I never found that again, so I probably shouldn't even have told you about it. Let's go to the next slide. What is jade? A lot of people say, oh, it's a green stone that comes from China. But they would be wrong on all 3 counts, and I will show you next. Next again. So here we have some green jade, and the green jade, it's interesting because I want to say that remember that book 50 Shades of Gray? Well, there are 50 shades of green in not really 50, but there are so many shades. You've got really neat colors. You have spinach green, you have spring onion green, you have moss green, you have kingfisher. There are all sorts of colors of names of green jade. Look on the right. This is a censer, and a censer, you probably know, is is just a container where incense is burned, and it's typically during a religious ceremony. I tried to put all the things that I have on the slides from SDMA in green, and then I have some from the Chinese History Museum, and we did that in red. Next slide, thank you. Oh, all right, go back a second. I'm sorry, Yudan. You've already seen what those three are, and now you can go ahead and go to the next one. Now we get to see that jade is not just green. It's really it's like a rainbow of colors, and it's almost every shade of the rainbow, plus a few, according to the Chinese, that mortal man cannot see. Up at the top is a brush washer. Underneath it is a cup on a stand. Then you see a vase. You see up in the right an archer's ring. And then to the right of that is a goose-shaped snuff bottle. Underneath is an elephant. Let's look at another elephant next. This is white jade, and it's all nephrite. And the story is with the two little mahouts who are down at the bottom. They look older, don't they? The one on the top is a boy. He's washing an elephant. They probably own that elephant. And that boy that's going to be his job, not always washing the elephant, but he's going to be in charge he'll be the keeper of that elephant. And usually you start out as a boy in the family profession, and you're assigned an elephant, and you have the elephant early in its life, and they remain bonded to each other throughout their lives. Let's go to the next slide. So remember I said that jade is a green stone from China, and we now know that it's not green always. And now we see that it's not one stone either. It's two minerals. One's nephrite, one's jadeite. The nephrite is old. That's like me. The jadeite is young, like Yudan. And the nephrite is greasy, and the jadeite is glassy. Continue. Let's go back to the Neolithic period in China, 10,000 years ago. Again, Yudan. Thank you. Now we're in the San Diego Museum of Art. We have a nice Asian gallery, and the first gallery is, I call it the tomb room, because most of the things in the tomb room are all objects for many times burials. And to the left, you see three circular discs with holes in them. They're called B. They aren't B's, but they're B. 1B, 2B, to be or not to be. There's no plural for B's. You would definitely just say B for each one. So there are 3B in that first part of the the room. And then we have 3 axes, and I'll talk about those later. But then you see 3 dragons, and they're little in the tomb room. I'm going to blow up a couple of them later because I want you to take a look at them. And then out in front is a comb, and then a dog. A dog is there, which is unusual to have right then. The dog really is looking very just comfortable there on the right-hand side. Okay, let's go on. Now the B is very flat. This is archaic jade. The B are also very hard. If you tried to throw that like a discus, you would probably kill someone because they're so heavy too. But they're not meant to be weapons. No one knows exactly what the bee means. It's very mysterious. The disc on the right shows the difference in the years that this one was carved compared to the one on the left. The bee on the left, this is old. It's really one of the oldest things we have, if not the oldest. The one on the right, you can see is much younger, and the carvers are getting better with putting pictures on the top of the bee. Let's go on. Now, I wanted to show you this because of the gorgeous color. This is a rare bee. It isn't in a museum. I don't know who it went to, but I found it on Christie's, and I really wanted to show it to you. It's much larger than the bee that we have, and the bee that we have is really a nice size. It's an incredible looking bee. You can see that it's chipped a little, and what the heck, over the years, that's normal. The bee were used in burials in the late Neolithic period, and they were placed around and on top of the body of the deceased. And the bee became the symbol of heaven in later times. So if that's the symbol of heaven, let's look at what represents earth. Next slide. Next. This word looks like Kong, doesn't it? It's not really pronounced Kong, although we have a tendency to say that. It sounds like Zoom. And it's a tube. It's really strange. It has a square exterior, and then the inside is hollow. And this type of jade is something that it would never be an ornament or not a pendant or anything like that. It would be way too heavy. Next slide. You can see how it's hollow inside. Next one. And then here's another. These are some beautiful Zung also, and they're just a bit smaller. They protected power for the dead. Go on. Or next, thank you. This is a precious one, and it may symbolize wealth. It's really more an amulet, and an amulet is just something that's an ornament, or it's a small piece of jewelry that was thought to give you protection against evil, or maybe disease or danger. But good news, Andy's going to tell you about some of these when I'm finished. Okay, next one. Now, this is really unusual because as early as about the 10th century, stones with colorations that resembled landscapes were a real favorite to frame. And so people would find these, and this is made out of nephrite. And there you go. You can just stick a frame on it and put it on the wall, and it gives you a lot of pleasure because the images sort of evoke maybe mountains or mists or a forest. I see a forest there. And that all had to do with nature and with the chi, and the chi is the life force of nature. And so people were very happy to capture this sort of piece of mystical work and put it in their dining room or something. Okay, next. Everyone loves dragons. Well, this is a Western dragon, and I don't know if I can say that could I say badass? They're badasses. They are fierce. They shoot out fire, and they fly. And let's compare this dragon to the next one. Let's look at the Chinese dragon. The Simpsons have really nailed this to tell you the truth, but they have no wings, but they can fly. They don't breathe fire, but they can summon rain. And that has a lot to do with that kind of a dragon. They're lucky, they're powerful, they're benevolent, they're associated with the emperor, and they are 9 real animals. Take a look at the faces. They have, for example, well, let's start with the antlers. They're antlers like a deer or a stag, and then the face is a camel, and the trunk is a snake, and then the feet are like a tiger, and the eyes are, I've heard it being said that they're like a lobster, and the claws are like an eagle, and the ears of an ox, and so on. And it's a really extraordinary figure. And I think Andy's going to say something about them too. Okay, let's go on. This one looks like the Simpsons Dragon in a way. I think compared to that Western dragon, this one looks like it sort of belongs on Sesame Street, but it's really such a cute pendant. It kind of looks like a sweet little giraffe too. Okay, you can go on. And now that one, this is in that case that I showed you, and that's a beautiful jade pendant. I want you to look at the carving. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Why don't we go on? I wanted to show you this one because it looks like, oh my gosh, how easy. It looks like you could twist it or do whatever you wanted to it, and yet it's jade. It doesn't move. This is from the Met, and it takes the shape of a dragon, and it's also a pendant, and it has this very like sinuous body that is kind of grooved to look like twisted rope. And it just shows how extraordinary the talent is of these Chinese carvers. And it's also white nephrite, and they call it mutton fat. Let's go on. This is the last one in our little case, and it's a teeny dragon, but it really is blown up. I wanted you to see how intricately that's carved. For that time period, it has to be incredibly hard. We see it's really, you have to abrade it, and it involves wearing away the stone with some kind of an abrasive substance. It's usually sand, maybe, and water. And then you have your own little primitive drilling tools. I see a little object at the end on the tail. To me, that looks like a bird, or else maybe the bird is in the middle, but it's just an absolutely exquisite dragon pendant. I want you to see one more. And, well, I guess I put this in instead. That's all right. No, go on. That's great. Maybe I put it in a different spot. This one is, it's showing you the methods of carving, which I kind of talked about, where you have to grind the jade down using abrasives. And then you get to the Bronze Age, and it's a little different because they've come up with some metal, and they can use drill points, they can use iron or even bronze, and the tools were made out of bronze and not stone, and so that was made it an even easier time for them. Let's go on. There's mine. So these are axe heads. That was the last thing in that case in the museum. But these were buried in royal tombs, and they would put, like I told you, the bee or the zung or different symbols that would be used in the afterlife. And they're quite nice. The colors are all different, and they're all nephrite. So look at the top sentence. It said jade was thought to slow the process of decomposition. And when you look at this, why not just cover up your whole body with jade if you're going to be decomposed? Next slide. Here's a jade suit. I think his tailor makes Armani look like the Men's Warehouse. This was extremely expensive to create. It requires several years even to complete a single suit like this. And I know that the Chinese History Museum has one. Lily took me in and showed it to me, and I couldn't get any good photographs. So this is really why I have this burial suit on my presentation. I really wanted to show yours. Okay, let's go on. This is just a detail of the head. And I believe that, well, let's go on to the next one too. Here's a good one of the hand section. And the hand section, when you take a look at this one, all the squares are cut perfectly, and then each one has 4 holes in them, and then they're bound together with either very nice thread or wire, silk, or even gold. And this was since the burial of a prince, then you know that they probably used the finest materials. Okay. When you're buried, then all these items are brought in to either put in your tomb or put around your tomb. And this could have been one. It's really a cute dragon. You can go on, Yudon, next. And here are these precious shoes. They're absolutely adorable. And the nephrite is an interesting color. That's red up there for real. That's not just something that a red pen accidentally was spilled. Look over at the curve on the left, the way it goes. And then on both of the shoes, I think they're dragons or similar to the dragon, but you can see the face, that face that kind of looks like the camel. You can go on. And a jade belt, we see that. It's really very, very pretty. Nicely done. Let's go. And then these are lovely. This is a pendant, and the pendant is something I haven't seen this one that's carved like this. There are a lot of holes in it. It's very difficult to do that. Continue next. Then we've got the dragon and the phoenix. And next. Oh, and finally, we're getting to jadeite. Now, I only have about 50 more slides to show you. I'm kidding. But is this really jadeite? They called it jadeite back in the 30s. And jadeite dishes really topped kitchen tables and diners. And they were all over the country. And by the 1940s and 50s, I think this was quite common in America. Martha Stewart has a collection. The Pioneer Woman has a collection, and they're rare. They're getting harder and harder to find. They were called Fire King Jadeite. And all they're not jadeite at all, but they're just made from jade green opaque milk glass. And I think that this one up above in this photo, this is harder to find. It's a restaurant wear brand, I think. It's probably the one that Martha collects, but she has every collection in the world. you can see how heavy it is. The cups, look at those cups, they were heavy, and they were probably made for like restaurants or hotels or hospitals where they wouldn't break as much. And I just wanted to see, I wanted you to see this photo before we start on jadeite. Now, in 1863, a Frenchman discovered that there were actually two different stones, jadeite and nephrite. Continue, Udon. And here is the jadeite. This jadeite is, I put a little note on here, a drop of green oil. What a great description of it. This is Imperial green jadeite, and it's a necklace. $2 million you could have gotten it for in 2005. It's been 15 years, so it's probably gone up. I think of jadeite sort of, I don't know why. I think of it as feminine, and I think of nephrite as kind of masculine. Let's go on. Here's the Emerald Buddha, and this is in Thailand. And it's an interesting temple to go to. You see the Emerald Buddha over there on the left up on the altar, and he looks very large, but he's only, guess what, 30 inches high. And he probably was made out of jadeite. And it's not just on the right, not three Buddhas, but what they do with the Emerald Buddha is they change his clothes every season. So it's kind of like Katy Perry on the MTV Awards. And these are all gold. And so you see the summer season, and then the rainy season, and then the cool season. And I don't know, I always think that this is something like doll clothes, or, you know, like Barbie clothes, or Ken doll or something. Okay, let's go on. Now, these two, this is the same piece. I wanted you to see this because it's Imperial Jade, and it's an exquisitely carved little piece of jadeite. And see how in the fingers, the person has taken, I think it's only about 2 inches, or it might be 3 inches tall, but the carving is, it really, it's just incredible. These carvers are so talented. Next slide. I want to show you where jadeite comes from. We have some in Latin America, and actually Andy's going to talk a little bit about that too, so I don't want to take that away from him. Let's go to the next one. And we think about, all right, where else can I find jade? Well, I know Andy's not going to talk about British Columbia, so let's go to British Columbia. I'm going to show you what a jade mountain looks like. Next slide. This is in British Columbia, and this is shown from the air. It's a very remote area up in northern British Columbia, and you see from, you can see some roads, not too many roads, and you see these literally mountains of jade. Let's go on. And this is an area that's called the China Wall. And it's literally a wall of jade. This one was 18 tons. They had to split it in half to carve it. There is so much jade there. 90% of the jade that's mined there is exported to China. But Tiffany's is now starting to order it from them also. Next slide. I don't know if you know any Nephrite miners, but this is pretty much backbreaking work. these guys are, it's very challenging because the weather is very harsh and cold in the wintertime. So you only have about 2 to 4 months of mining, and you have to work like crazy. And the owner, the company owner, started out, he actually started out as a jade driller, and now he's the owner of the whole company. And he says that the deposits in British Columbia will be supplying the world with jade for the next few hundred years. And this has been going on for about 4 decades, but it's just finally taking off. So we've seen nephrite mining. Now let's look at jadeite mining. Next slide. This is called the Green Line. We're now in Burma or Myanmar, and you can see the jade that's there. You can see rubies, and you can see some amber. It looks like there's a lot up there in Burma, in Myanmar, but we'll see what's happening to it with the next slide. I'm calling this the Wild, Wild East because there are a lot of problems going on, and you have an area that people are, well, they think that let's go mine up there and we'll get rich. And next slide, they leave the city, they end up there working with all those other people. And this is not a great experience. They come up, there are drug lords, there are crooked politicians, and even the military. The only honest people are the real people in Myanmar. You can buy a syringe of heroin for $1. And that's why we call this the white line. And it's just a bad situation. Next slide. A decent situation that is going on with mining is in New Zealand, and it's also respectful. You only find this greenstone or ponamu in rivers or river beds, and they can put out there. It's not that they're over mining at all. How about one more slide? This is mostly what that color is of their greenstone. And the greenstone is this is really from the Maori. And the Maori really respect their ancestors. And so this is a little thing called Heiteki. And he is a symbol of status, but he is the chief son of Father Sky and Mother Earth. And he is, he's passed down from generation to generation. They like they really honor their parents. And at the same time, they only have a few different symbols that they carve that are appealing to them. I think the key for these carvings, any carving, is patience. It takes a lot of time to work with jade, and the skill level is really huge. Nowadays, you can use such easier tools, but when you sand it or you grind it, nephrite jade has little asbestos like particles that float in the air. And even if you're working under dripping water. So some people can only carve for a few years. Next one. This is our artist, Donald Hurd, and he is a San Diego artist. He got into carving and sculpture, and I hope that you can see, this is so dark that it almost looks like black obsidian or something, but it is nephrite. It's from Wyoming, and it's a beautiful little piece. And when you also look at how intricate it is, His face is well done. It looks so polished. And what's amazing to me is it looks like it's a huge sculpture, but it's only 20 inches high. So we've learned that jade is not just green, and we've learned that it's not just from China, and it's not just from stone. We're almost done, and I want to show you, though, next slide, some eye candy. I want you to take a look at this one. I'm really amazed. It is stunning. It's a poppy, and it's supposed to be a stylized poppy. It's very, very elegantly emerging kind of from this, look at the diamond stem. It twists around and then it loops over with that big old diamond. And then you have the rubies and the jade. The jade may be Mughal jade, which is from India. Who would think? I never knew that there was jade in India, but it is magnificent. And I do not know yet what this, I think you can still bid on this one. And I believe they feel that it's worth $2 million. Next slide. This one is a it's a brush pot, and it's called spinach green. Looks like spinach, really, that color. I love the colors of the green that are all described, but this is very intricately carved. And when you look at it, it's a mountain scene all the way around. And it's got this continuous mountainous landscape. And there are rocks and trees, and they've sort of framed different little vignettes. And this one is a scholar, and the scholar has his assistant below, and the assistant is carrying a peach branch, and they're going up the steps to that pagoda up there. It's you can see that it went for almost $600,000. And I forgot to put, Lily C told me this and I forgot. Lily C, I'm sorry. I think it's about 4 inches tall. Next one. Laughing Buddha. We love the Laughing Buddha. The Laughing Buddha is very impressive because it has these diamonds and then this beautiful piece of jadeite. The auction is over, and the estimate was, I think, 18 million Hong Kong dollars, which was 1.5 million, or almost 1.5. And it's this brilliant emerald green color. It has a very good translucency. And then the carving is just so precious. And and then it's probably 18 karat gold too, or white gold. Okay, one more. I have before you something that you will look at and you'll think, oh, really? It's a dish, one of those washers, and it's a twin fish washer, and it's very finely carved. The sides flare up, and it's encircled with these like string bands, and then the interior has a kind of a high relief with these fish. Next slide. And this is the back of it. And Qinglong was the last 6th emperor of he was the 6th emperor of the Qing dynasty, and he was regarded as the last great emperor. And he was a superb military tactician, but he was also a lover of the arts. And he ruled for 63 years. Look at the base, and you can see I think that little sticker over there on the right is probably from the man who owned, he probably had a collection and they put that on there. But when you look at the base, it's raised, And there are these 5 rectangular sort of feet, and they are surrounding this very incised means, you know, cut into it, into the surface. And it's an imperial poem, and it was composed by the emperor himself. And it's all picked out there in the gilding. And the seals are in the middle. And then there's another one up above. And the stone it's this pale sort of greenish white bone. It's a good thing you didn't have this thing in the museum when it was robbed, because it went for almost $3 million. Next one. Oh heavens, this is a jadeite bangle. Superb. Don't ask me why. $5 million. Gorgeous. I don't even know if I could get that one on my wrist, though. It probably isn't big enough. All right, so in every single thing that you look at, you look at these things and you realize that to the Chinese people, jade is more important than gold. It's more important than silver. It's even more important than diamonds are to the Kardashians or to themselves. But they have nothing on this next slide. Here is Pansy Ho, Macau. Look at that bling. She has the jadeite necklace. She has the jadeite earrings. Over on the right, she's got the ring. She has the necklace over there too. It's really interesting. I don't know. I wonder if she has fakes just to, if she goes out and she's afraid she'll get robbed or something, but that's a lot of bling. Now, I'm nearing the end, and I began with Homer and I'm going to end with him. I want you to see that Homer has become enlightened and he's now a jade Buddha. And it just shows you how jade has become part of pop culture. He is sold on eBay, maybe Amazon. I think he's sold out though now. But there's some things we learned about jade. We learned that jadeite is jade, but not all jade is jadeite. And we learned that jade is not just a green stone from China. Jade protects you. It gives you wisdom. It gives you energy, and it gives you luck, all of which you will need to get through this pandemic. And I wish all of that to you and more. Thank you so much for having me here. Namaste.
Thank you so much. 谢谢, 谢谢, Kathy.
Oh, next slide. There we go. Okay. Thank you all.
谢谢. I think that we have learned so much from Kathy. And if I may have the next slide, please. We are going to invite Mr. Andy Liu, who is very interested in the Chinese culture, heritage, and he is a collector himself, and he's a collector of antiques, including pre-Columbian arts. He has over 30 years of experience studying the Chinese culture, as well as the global diaspora. We are so fortunate that Andy is willing to not only talk to us, but also to share with us many of the items that is from his collection. So we would like to ask you to mute yourself but invite Andy Liu to start his talk. Andy, please. Thank you. Yeah.
You hear me? Okay.
Louder, please. Thank you.
First of all, I have to thank Catherine. Excellent presentation. We should give her applause.
Thank you.
Now I just want to present the east with the west jade. Because the jade is adored by so many peoples, not only the Chinese or the Asian, also in the West. That's why today my title is try to introduce the jade, how they change the jade from people's idea to final to the luxury stuff, like the Catherine say. Okay, let's go to the first one. Okay, this is a bee. This is a Liangzhu culture. This bee got two kinds. One is this, one is a cow. The Catherine showed us before. These two actually is one culture together. The bee means the meat is bigger in the center hole, called a bee. Reverse is called a huan. Huan means like you can put on your arm something. This bee, this Liangzhu bee is a little bit different. My collections is it got some carving on it, and they're carving one side is the dragon. So talk about dragon, I want to talk about the Catherine talk about the dragon, what's the dragon? What's the difference in the West dragon and the Chinese dragon? Western dragon, probably from some cartoon, you think the idea, and the dragon is tough, and they're going to kill the people and that kind of stuff. The Chinese dragon have history. Many years ago, a scholar, he wrote an article about the dragon. Very interesting. He said, in thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe way before this is Jade, this Liangzhu is about 5,000 years, way before this. China is so many tribes. You got about maybe 500, maybe thousands. Nobody knows. But every tribe have a symbol representing themselves. Like a Sichuan, they use a snake. Even today, their words, shu, have snake inside. There are also some tribe use the carp. Some tribe use a deer. Some tribe use a tiger. All kind of different stuff. But finally, we have a king, the first king in our history, called Yellow King. He conquered all of it. So he unified all the tribes. After he united him, and he said, let's find one symbol represent everybody. So they come out this dragon. So you can see the dragon have a snake's body, have a lamb's goat teeth, and you have to see the carp's whisker, and also you can see the horse's head, and then you also can see the fish's shell on the body. And the feet is like a bird's claw. So, and finally the color is gold, but before it's yellow. That's his color. So the dragon, why the people, Chinese people so adore this dragon, because the dragon symbol is unite all the Chinese people, all the tribes, So this might be just a story, but it makes sense. This scholar, he studied dragon for quite a while and find. That's why I just give a little story about these dragons. So the bee and the cow, early time, they're not for decorations. These are for the ceremony. Might be the lord or the witch. Yeah, big ceremony time, they use these things for ceremony. And this bee quite got a carving, and this carving is because you flip over the words in the Song Dynasty. Because the Song Dynasty, we call the North Song and the South Song. Song used to be in the north, and in the Kaifeng area. Because the Jin or Liao in that time conquered them. So push them to move to the south. And then they set up a new capital in Hangzhou. And Hangzhou is the Liangzu's original archaeological sites in there. They have a big museum for this Liangzu, Liangzu Jade Museum. For understanding, in that time, the first emperor called Huizong, he loved this antique stuff. So he spent the money, tell the people, dig the grave out. They say dig about 200 some graves. So this one, there's Liangzu have his, I don't know, I didn't further check is really Song Dynasty or not, but it's very impressive. The carving like this dragon, but you cannot see too well. And also the back is we call it a Song Dynasty. The first years, remember the first years like a birthday, of the country, that kind of things, And so it's very interesting. And next, okay, this one is one side have the wars on it. Other side still has the dragon. Okay, let's go next. Well, this is the Hongshan Wenhua. Today we call the Chifeng. This Hongshan Wenhua, Hongshan culture is in the Mongolia. And his Jade come out is different than the rest of the Chinese areas. He have this kind of mask that usually have the horn on it, looking like it's a witch or something like that. In that time, witch is very powerful because they don't have the god. You don't have today, like say that we got a god, we got the Buddhas or the Guanyin or something. There's none. So witch is very powerful in the like a spiritual leader. The small one you can see, that's called a pig dragon jade. That's typical in the Hongshan stuff. And we got quite a few areas have this jade culture, Liangzu, Hongshan. And by the way, the Hongshan, they have a new site. It defined in the 2007 or 2008 around the Shanghai. They say it is bigger than the Hangzhou one, the Liangzu. Okay, let's go next. So just like say the Liangzu and the Hongshan, the jade for ceremony use, Now the people change their thinking and they use the jade like a tool. Like this one is a 5-hole knife. Usually tie this hole on the bar, a wooden bar. So function like a knife. It's pretty sharp. They can cut the vegetable and cut the meat as no problems. And you can see this hole, so difficult that you draw a hole. The hole still not a complete through, but you can see, they spend a lot of time on it. Some archaeological people say they find the bone on the Liangzu. They say a small piece on the Liangzu or the Hongshan, these kind of things. One very good jade smith, they need about all his life. He only might be carving one or two. So don't look at this knife. Probably spend all his life to make cut this piece. You have to remember, they don't have any tool. They don't have any metals. They don't have any draw like the dentists use. Otherwise it's much easier, right? So it's very hard to cut this kind of piece like this. That's why the people thinkings change. Well, the J is very, the high stuff, only for the ceremony for the god or something, and now it's changing to the tools. Okay, let's go next. This is the Han Dynasty, probably is a royal estate. This is owl. Because why I say this? Because he can got two horns on the head. Because in that time, the people really adored the owl because they think the owl is the toughest bird. They're tough because they want to catch you and in the dark. You cannot see him. He can catch you, And he got a very powerful wing, all this stuff. But you can see the mark, the pattern on his wing. So you can say this is Han Dynasty. Not Han Dynasty, it's the royal states in that times, Okay, let's go next. Okay, this is the Han Dynasty's cup. And this cup, you can tell they have an idea from the Bronze Dynasty. See, look like it's from the Bronze time, they got an idea, they try to, copy their idea. So they got these two ears. And from the lead, for the handle and the lead, you can see that's a persimmon calyx. So you can identify this is Han Dynasty because that's a typical Han Dynasty symbol. And also you can see the carving on the lead, that's we call in that time, we call them a small dragon as a symbol, And this one is a little bit rare because they have lead on. Usually you only see the cup, there's no lead anymore. Either they're broken or lost. So this one they probably use for the incense burner, ceremony. Okay, let's go next. Okay, this one is going to the next stage. This is a Qing Dynasty, in the middle of Qing Dynasty, like a Qianlong or something like that. And you can see they like a carving, they try to enjoy the jade. The people can enjoy them. It's not like a very serious, you have to go to the ceremony or you have to use like a tool or something like that. This you can put on the table or by putting in your living room or something, you can enjoy them carving. And this is from a Hetian, called a Hetian Yu. The Hetian Yu have a story. In the Gugong, you have a big Hetian jade. This is around 4 tons, something like 3 or 4 tons. From a Hetian to Beijing, the long way, that's thousands of miles away. For that piece of jade, take them almost 3 years to move from Hetian to Beijing because they only can move in the wintertime. When the rivers become the ice, they push on the ice. They're too heavy. In that time, they don't have forklift. They don't have the bigger, truck. They can pull out. So taking about 3 years, send it to Beijing, and let Qianlong look at it. Say, okay, this is good. So they use the waterway, move to Suzhou, because Suzhou's jade carving is the #1 in that time in China. So they take about a couple of years to carving that things. Then move back to Beijing. So that one called 大禹治水. That's a long story. That's one of the king in China. He's the one to control the flood. So that's the carvings talk about how they, do the rivers work, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you got a chance to go to Beijing, you should take a look. That's a very, very real piece. Let's go to the next. Okay, this is we talk about the green jade. Of course, it's not like Catherine showed you the Imperial Jade, but this is coming from Burma. Because China don't have the green jade. China always is white jade. By the way, I just talked about the Hetian jade. The best Hetian jade for the lamb fat jade. You might be saying, what do you mean, lamb fat? We call it 羊脂白玉. You look like, the that kind the fat, like butter, if you talk butter, it's like maybe like a lard, but it's not like lard, but the lamb's lard, This green one is a late Qing Dynasty, the Jade coming to China, because the last women queen, Cixi, he liked the green jade very, very much. In that time, large volume of jade come to China. And in that time, still don't have imperial jade. Right now, they have this called most expensive imperial jade, especially like that's a necklace, because the necklace is harder. The most expensive jewelry in the jade is a necklace, because every jade is from the same stone. That's very hard, Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we finished, roughly finished my collection of the Chinese jade. Now I go to the pre-Columbia jade. This is the Western. And the Western people, they really respect jade. Long time ago, for these things, I should talk about, called the rock carving, also it's called the petroglyph. Long time ago, a scholar, he wrote an essay. He's from Tsinghua, then he went to the Harvard to get his PhD. His final term paper is talking about this, rock carving and this petroglyph. He said, from Mongolia, you got lots of rock carving on the rock. Then all the way, go to the Alaska. In that time, probably they connect each other or something. So you cross the continent to the North American. Because I went to the Snake River a long time ago with my son, we go to camping. We saw some beautiful rock carving, really, really nice. And they're all similar. Then you can find, in the Colorado River, I usually like fishing, my fishing guy taking me there to see this rock carving, and all the way to the Mexico. So in this war, only two cultures. One is China, the one is pre-Columbia, Mexico. They really, really like the jade. They know jade is very valuable. And also, in the Mexico, same thing. Mexico don't have jade. So where they gotta find this jade? They find out this jade mining is in the Guatemala. In Guatemala, too, the very cool, this Omex stuff is originally coming from the very cool La Vente. La Vente is coming, this is that door, Very cool is always is a mask. So I say that's far away. So they also from far away to move this jade to there. And the China long time is very strong. That dynasty in China probably is the peak on the Qing dynasty. After him is going down the hill and fast. So in that time the Olmec probably is a very strong tribe. That's why he gives all beautiful jade to them. This one they call the leper's lip. You see here the lip, like a leopard, and because it shows the power. Some of my collection, they have this thing, the human body, but I have the leopard's head, It shows the power. And you can see his body have the tattoo. And I only know few of them, but I really don't know what that means. If anybody know these graphs, maybe can tell me what it is, what that means. It's very beautiful, Okay, let's go next. Okay, these two, the also Olmec mask, the jade mask. The left one coming like a Chinese, like Oriental. you know. And he got a separate jar. But this is a very particular one. Yeah, I sent to the lab, in Los Angeles a long time ago. The guy is called Francis Presso. He's a German. And he used to be the head of the Getty Museum, forensic department. He passed away a few years ago. And he got his PhD in the German, so special like this. And he talked to me, he said, he never saw the jar cut like this. Usually the mask is the whole mask. And I make further study. In that time, when the old man passed away, sometimes they want to divide the wealth for his children. Sometimes they say how they can divide it. Like this mask, everybody like it. Okay, they cut it, then chain. So one get a top, one get a bottom. I don't know if this is making sense or not. But I have a lot of collection of the silt. They used to use the silt, to make the food, to punch the food, That one's cut. I got a few of them cut in the center, and no any reason why they cut in the center. They say because this. My right one is very powerful, the Jade mask. And this one, from the Hassel Van Winnie's reporter, he's a very famous on this pre-Columbia art. He's very, very famous. He got a few books and real nice books. And he also is a German. He got a PhD in, I don't know, the Heidelberg University or something. In his 1975 certificate for this particular mask, he said this mask is not finished yet. So when I checked, because I saw everything is fine, and turn over in the bag, because the bag is hollow. These two masks, the bag is hollow. So the thick, probably quarter-inch thick, something like that. They didn't finish it. When I saw that one, then I realized this mask is really, really hard to make it. He might be taking his whole life, make a one or something like this, because this mask is around, 7 inches or 8 inches high, So, and why they make the mask? Usually they find the mask on the grave, the next to the master, the head. It's not on the face like a Chinese got something too. The Liao Dynasty, they usually put a mask on the head, on the face. But this one is not on the face, it's on the side, usually. Probably, this is a symbol like him and something like that. And when he died, go with him, Okay, next. This is a mask, it's a Jade mask. And he got, for so many years, so they got a crack, on the side. But this crack is real, real nice. And I really like this one. This is one of my favorite collections. Okay, let's go next. This mask is very interesting. This mask is Greta Lab. He got a 2013 report, very clear, very good report. He said, in that time, this is by the way, this is a Teotihuacan. It's a mine mask. It was found in the rivers, probably in the rivers for hundreds of years already. So you can see the face, you can see the time is marked. Also, you can see it might be the history mark on his face. Look at making so many holes and the water through the lines, So this mask is very interesting. And by the way, Teotihuacan mining time is like Tang Dynasty in China's history. Because, in the mining time, they got the glass, they built so many beautiful, the pyramids, I went to the Teotihuacan and I went to Guatemala on the lace. You got a real big one, very beautiful one, you know, especially in Tecate, just in the Guatemala. Very completely, no damage. And you go to the, you know, the Chichen Itza, it got some damages, you know, they didn't repair it. Okay, let's go to the next. This is a J mask. Also, this is a mine of Teotihuacan. And you see, they like the green jade too. Now I got a few pieces. The whole thing is green. So this one is a mosaic. In the detail, you find two jars, like this type. You know, they copy like a square, you know, rectangular jade put together, you know. I think this is a very interesting because they inlaid on the very old bar. The back is a wood, you know, it's very old. And I just want everybody can enjoy it because they like the green jade too, you know. Okay, let's go next. Okay, this piece is two sides. Actually, it's only one piece. And this one I acquired in the Montana many years ago. The interesting thing is this one is it got the Mayan calendar. You know, it's 26 days a month and 10 months a year. You know? And they all got the numbers in there. I know the numbers. I don't know the symbols. The symbol probably, you know, is a glass. And maybe it's marking that time what happened. Anything that happened there. Maybe it's a war or something. Maybe change the chief. So this is a small piece of one, big piece. And this is a J also. And anybody know what did they talk about? You know, let me know. I will be very appreciated. Also, this is my last pictures. And also I need to thank all the people working on this project, including you.